Why did I pick up a camera? Well, I've always had a love for travel, uh, and but my first ambition was to be a filmmaker, and I studied that in the university and a couple years. And in the course of that program, I had to take a class in still photography, and that's when I really discovered the joy and the freedom and the kind of the sense of meditation you get when you go out on the street with just you and your camera, and you kind of wander and observe the world that we live in. So I just got hooked from that point. I mean, there's things that we care about, the things that are important to us, and I think you want to tell that story to other people.
What is it about storytelling and images? How do you capture a story in a fragment of an image?
Well, it's very simple. I think as you kind of wander through life and observe the world that we live in, there's things that we see or we hear or we read about that impact us, that we find very profound and that change our lives. Being a visual person, I spend a lot of time, looking and seeing things in my everyday life, which I find really important and wonderful, and things that I think I kind of want to reach out and say, did you see this amazing thing which I drive past every day? Or I've been to, India or Bhutan or Tibet, and I've kind of witnessed these events and met these people, and they do things in a very different way, and a wonderful way, and something that I was never aware of, but I want to kind of share that with you.
And what's the difference for you? Is there a difference between photography, documentary photography and art photography?
Well, I think that they can intersect sometimes. Sometimes it's just purely, recording the event without any interpretation, without any point of view. It's just, or sometimes you search for something a little bit deeper, some meaning, or how you're kind of more of a kind of a subjective look. So I think I think of the work of, say, Henri Cartier-Bresson or Andre Kertész, or some of these photographers from the past who have really brought something new, and it's shown us the world that we never really imagined, the rhythms and the harmony of life, and how it swirls around, and sometimes how things juxtapose, and you take two things and put them together, and it creates this magic. I think that, and I think sometimes a documentary picture can have a deep impact on us the same way as a great painting or a piece of music or a poem can have. It just depends on the practitioner, I guess, operating the camera.
Is there a magic hour or a magic moment for you? How do you capture, like, this is going to be the picture that I'm going to take today?
Any time of the day. It depends. Noon might be a wonderful time to be in a market or a church or a bazaar or a temple or a monastery or somebody's home. That could be like the perfect time. It may not be the perfect time to be in that park, but so that you have to, that quality of light. So the magic hour doesn't have to be like. But yeah, I think that you want to have a feeling, an emotion of what the place, what the place is like to be there yourself. Not so much kind of just a picture of the place. You want to have a picture that conveys the emotion, what it's like to be there, what it's like to be that person. And I think you need to you bring a certain sense of yourself through your work that conveys a certain empathy, compassion about these people and what their life is like. Not so much what it kind of looks like on the surface, but the feeling inside, that heartfelt emotion of the situation.
I agree. There's this unspoken world within that comes through those portraits, and even the landscapes as well. There's always a story, a poetry from within that comes through somehow.
Yeah, I think that I kind of see myself more as a storyteller, as a poet, with a point of view to get beneath the surface of the situation, draw people in to this story and have them feel the emotions that I felt when I was there. And hopefully that can be kind of some call to action to let's help, let's do something, let's mobilize, let's make a difference, let's do something good.
There is such a kaleidoscope of portraits that you take while you're roaming the planet. Would you say that certain moments are more memorable in your mind than others, or are they all quantifiable in one way or another?
Well, the human face, how we present ourselves, adorn ourselves. It's like a kaleidoscope because it's this constant variation on a theme.
Yeah.
It's the same, yet it's always different. It's constantly in motion, constantly in flux. Occasionally, there's a kind of a supernovae situation where one face, one person really outshines everybody else, and you kind of literally live for those moments where there's a spectacular insight into the human condition. But I got to say that this commonality of humanity, this shared existence, is really, it's always reconfirmed whenever I travel, that wherever we are, people respond to respect, to humor, and wherever we happen to be in the world, we have this same needs, the same desires, and it doesn't vary wherever you are in the world.
Yeah. When you say that lightning that comes through, is that the soul that's within that's shining through, or is that a situation that's being captured in that moment when that picture that is stands out from the rest?
Well, I think sometimes there's certain people, certain portraits, which really have an intense emotional component and really go way beyond what you normally would experience as a portrait, and it's just something which is like stand apart and like overpowering, and it's something unforgettable. It's a picture which it's just something which will stay with you, something which you'll never forget. Whatever that magic is, it's hard to describe, it's hard to articulate.
Yeah, that magic formula. What is it like that?
Yeah, well, it's indescribable in a way. That magic. I mean, it's really difficult to describe what that is. That magic that differentiates something ordinary with something exceptional, and so I don't know. But I think it's also something which the viewer of the picture can express and say, well, I've reacted to this song or this poem or this book or this story or this picture, this piece of music. What is it? What is that thing? So that, I guess it's all individual. It's all something which we all have to answer for ourselves.
Yeah. I would say once you take a picture, then it doesn't belong to you anymore. You have that magic button moment, and then you give it to the world, and then it belongs to everyone else to interpret in their own way. You have some words attached to it within the story that you're telling, but that story can be interpreted in different ways, can it not?
That's right. No, I think you make a picture, people bring their own interpretation, their own story. And that's actually sometimes their interpretation, looking at my picture, is actually has more meaning than maybe the picture. Because sometimes it's an ordinary moment, but it looks it's magic, but maybe that's only an interpretation, and it's not actually maybe it didn't exist in reality.
Is there an art of looking?
I think you can train your eye, the power of observation,
Yeah.
to kind of try and see things in a deeper way.
Yeah.
Walking down the street. Usually when we're walking down the street, we're looking here, we're thinking about what we're going to have for lunch. We're thinking about what we did yesterday. We're thinking about tomorrow. We're actually present in the moment. And I think when you can kind of say, you know what, I'm going to actually observe my surroundings, the architecture, the trees and the sounds and the sidewalk or the path or the whatever. And when you actually start to look at those, it kind of, you see things in a much deeper way because you're actually present in the moment, looking at your surroundings. It's very simple, but you know, if you're walking down somewhere, your mind is somewhere else. Often when I'm in a photography workshop, I tell the students, go off on your own. Don't go, if you're going to walk down and do some street photography, go by yourself. Because as soon as you are with somebody else, you're going to start talking and your mind is off somewhere. You're not looking, you're not observing, you're not meeting people. You need to sometimes stop and actually talk to a stranger, or you know, play with a dog, or sit on a park bench and just look. You know, so that's I think that's kind of my view of it.
How do you manage to say, you know, they say a picture speaks 1,000 words. How does that work, and the eye to the brain and the story through just one fragment of a moment?
Well, it's all subconscious. It's all, again, it's intuition. You've photographed, you know, hundreds of thousands of times. You kind of know what works and what doesn't, and you put everything together, and you have a sense of storytelling and how visually you do that, and you just draw on your experience. You're almost on kind of autopilot because you kind of know, you know, you need a sense of, you know, this emotional component, you need a sense of place, and you just go on your instincts based on years of experience and having photographed over so many years. I mean, that's just for me. I mean, maybe some people don't need so much time and experience, but I mean, that's the way I work.
Is there a recurring theme in your photography?
Well, for me, I'm fascinated with human behavior, how we treat each other, how we interact with each other, with the environment, or with wildlife or animals. So human behavior is really at the heart of, you know, it's like people watching at a cafe in Paris and watching people walk by, and how we dress differently, how we adorn ourselves differently, festivals, religion, and how we act differently and how we conduct ourselves. I mean, this to me is really the most interesting part of what I do as a photographer, and traveling the world and seeing this rich tapestry of humanity, because there's so many different approaches to life, and to be able to have your frame of reference of where you come from, then suddenly to be put in a completely different environment and be able to see how these people eat and play and worship and work. And it's just so fascinating to see how we approach this sort of commonality of humanity. We're all different yet we're all the same.
Yeah.
That's what really fascinates me about travel, whether it's internationally or within your community or in your country or region, to see how we all approach life in slightly different ways, but we all have the same problems and we all have the
Right.
same needs, and yet we do things slightly different. So that's what fascinates me about life and photography.
Mm. So interesting. That creates compassion, doesn't it? Seeing things from your eyes and also through the other person's eyes. So you're a channel for them, through them.
I think that when you see other people and other places, other cultures, it creates an empathy, compassion. You realize that they're just like me. I mean, they have a family, they go to work, they look forward to the weekend when they can spend time with their friends and family. And it's really, whether you're in Cairo or Beijing or Moscow or New York or London or Buenos Aires or Nairobi, it's all kind of, we're all the same.
Yeah.
And you kind of see that when you travel and get to know people, that wow, these are brothers and sisters. And it's, you kind of see that all of that, that separation is kind of artificial, and down deep we're really kind of one world.
Mm. Your photography tells lots of stories of beauty and of pain and suffering sometimes as well. Is that a recurring theme? Is that something that combines well, pain and suffering and beauty? How do you make something that is painful beautiful, and why would you do that?
Well, I don't seek out beauty in sort of these tragic situations. I'm looking for truth. I think that sometimes you can find beauty in terrible situation. In a refugee camp, there can be wonderful moments of caring and compassion within a family or within a community. Some people still glow with goodness despite the fact that they're in these terrible situations. So you can always find beautiful moments everywhere, and even in the most horrific situations. But I think the first priority is really just tell the facts, tell the story, and if sometimes there's good and bad coexisting in the same situation, but you want to really just get down and tell the truth of what's happening. And sometimes there's wonderful, beautiful things in that situation. And sometimes there's evil and terrible things happening, but you have to tell the entire story. Sometimes, people, editors and publications tend to only want to, publish the good things, the beautiful moments, and ignore the bad. They don't want to, go negative like that. But I think you want to photograph everything and tell that full, complete, truthful story. My job is to show the situation and hope people see it, understand it, and want to help.
Yeah.
And the pictures, if you can make storytelling pictures that have impact, that have emotion, people can connect with those pictures.
How do you get people to trust you when you're taking pictures of them?
Well, I think you have to engage in your surroundings. And sometimes you have to kind of push yourself a little bit and say, okay, I'm not going somewhere. I'm just going to relax and be here. I want to, maybe there's somebody that you stop and chat to or whatever. Maybe you see somebody, you think, oh my God, this person has this incredible look. I think it's really important. Let me ask him or her if I can maybe make their portrait. And I think with respect and with humor and explain who you are, what you're doing, people will respond in a positive way. I think I don't think there's any real secret to how to approach people. It's just literally just going up and with a kind of a smile saying, you know what, I'm a photographer. I really think you're interesting for XYZ. And could you mind if I make a quick portrait? I'd be happy to, show you the picture, send you the picture, whatever. And then sort of engage them. And as soon as they realize you're like a normal person and have good intentions, usually people will say, okay, yeah, go ahead. I'm happy to participate in this.
Yeah.
So it's just really just making that effort and being friendly. And I think it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
It takes a little bit of effort though.